Welcome to Games. This is Joe from What I'm Playing Now, and we have another Kickstarter preview for you. This game is Battle Ravens. This is from the Plastic Soldier Company. This is a game designed by Daniel Mercier. It is a two-player game, ages 14 and up. It'll play in about 45 to 60 minutes, and I think once you get the rules down, you should be able to knock out the game in that amount of time. We're going to give you a brief tutorial on how to play the game. I'm going to go through a couple of rounds. But as always, please be sure to turn on your Klingon subtitles to make sure that in case if I do make any rules errors, we can put any corrections in there and everybody can see those to make sure that they understand and are playing the game properly. Let's jump over to our overhead view of the table. We're going to set the box down right over here. And what you see in front of me is a battlefield of players. There are two different types of army members that you're going to be playing with. You have the Bondi, which are basically a kind of like a militia, but more not armored. They're more probably townsfolks. And then you also have the Herdmen. So as you can see, these guys have a little bit more armor on them. They have some shields, a little bit better weapons than the pikes and spears that the Bondi have. Each player has the same amount of players. I believe there are 18 of each. You also have thralls, which are going to allow you to re-roll some of your dice. You have 3 of those, and you will lose those when you actually start losing the territories. The object of this game is to eliminate all of your opponent's army members from one section of the board, move your army into that section of the board to capture it. Once you control a section of your opponent's board, you will then win the game. The game will take place over rounds, and the rounds are going to consist of you, on your starting off, placing down your ravens. The ravens, you can kind of say, are your actions for this game. Each player starts off with 20 ravens, and the ravens are kind of like, circling the battlefield and looking for, the dead bodies, kind of like what ravens kind of do. But you're allowed to place up to 9 ravens in one particular territory, and the way we've kind of been playing, we've kind of just take the ravens and we're going to say we're going to put maybe like 3 ravens here. We kind of just put them right behind the troops just so we don't try to put them in the middle because you start knocking figures over and it's just easier to set them behind the troops like this. And actually what you should do first is figure out first player. So let's figure out first player first. So you are playing with the Anglo-Saxon, which are here, which are going to be the white ravens, against the Norse, which are the red ravens. To start off, you're going to roll 4 dice. So I'm going to show you the dice that I just rolled here. Figuring out first player is just like when you're rolling an attack. 1, 2s, and 3s are nothing. 4s and 5s give you 1, and a 6 gives you 2. So right now, I basically rolled 2 6s, so I rolled a 4. So we're going to roll for the Norse next. The Norse rolled 3 2s and a 3. So they basically have nothing. So the actual Anglo-Saxons are going to be the ones who are the first player. That's how you figure out first player. After this, you're going to go through and you're going to place the ravens down on the board. When you're placing the ravens on the board, you cannot place any more than 9 ravens in a particular area. Once you place the ravens in a particular area, you cannot go back and place any more ravens there. So once I decide if I'm placing 3 over here in this territory, and let's say my opponent Kim was playing, and let's say she's going to go ahead and she's going to place 4 over here on that column, on that row. She can't go back and add any more, and I can't go back and say, well, I now want to bump this up to 5 or anything. Once you've placed in an area, you can't go back and place any more. You're going to go back and forth placing your ravens until all ravens are placed on the particular columns. After that, you're going to start doing your moves. On your turn, you have the choice of a couple of actions that you can do. You can actually move army members from one column to another, or you can attack. To do a move, you remove however many number of ravens, however many members of your army that you want to move, you will remove that many number of ravens. So if I want to actually move 2 characters from over here and move them over to this area, it would cost me 2 ravens. Now at the beginning of the game, I mentioned that there's 2 different types of army members that you're working with, the Bondi and the herdsman. They basically have different strengths, or I guess you could say different health abilities. The Bondi only have 1 hit point, whereas the herdmen have 2. When you're doing your move actions, it doesn't matter how many you move, or like how many herdmen you move, or however many Bondi you move. You're basically just paying to move figures, so you don't have to worry about cost. The other thing you can do on your turn is you can remove ravens, and you can actually attack. So if I want to, let's say I had the 3 ravens over here and I want to attack with 2 dice, I would remove 2 ravens. I would roll my 2 dice. And as I said before, 1, 2, 3 is a miss. 4 and 5 are hits of 1 point. 6 is a hit with 2 points. At this point in time, if I actually wanted to use a thrall to re-roll one of my dice, I have to decide whether I want to use 1 or more thralls right now. You only get the choice to re-roll once when you're re-rolling. So I can't say, okay, I'm going to use a thrall, re-roll a die, and then say, oh, okay, I want to use another thrall. You can't do that. If you want to re-roll both dice, you need to remove 2 thralls from the area, set them off to the side. You'll get them back at the beginning of your next turn. They do come back, but they're basically just used to do re-rolls. So when you're attacking, I rolled zeros. If, let's say I rolled a 6 and a 4, that would actually give me 3 hits. Kim can then decide over here, she has ravens on her side. She can take her ravens and actually use them to block. So trying to block against 3, she could remove 2 ravens and set them off to the side. We kind of just like move them back to the corner of the board there. And then she would actually get to roll 2 dice. And just like attacking, 1, 2, 3 is going to be a miss. 4, 5 will block 1, 6 will block 2. So let's say I rolled a 3 and a 5. I know I bumped that 5. It wasn't a 5 to begin with, but I wanted to show this as an example. I had actually hit with 3 over here, we had said. Kim took 2 of her ravens off. She blocked 1, so I would hit with 2 points right now. So at this point in time, Kim can look at her army and say, she could either remove a herdsman, which is a 2-point character, or she can remove 2 Bondis, since each one of those costs 1. She can do either one. Whenever you're removing army characters, figures from your side of the table, you have to remove the largest amount that you can. So no matter how the math goes, if you can remove more based on the number of figures that you have in that area, you have to do that. At this point in time, you're kind of just going back and forth doing those types of attacks, blocks, and moves. At the end of a round, once all of the ravens are used up, is when you will go to the end of the turn phase. And we're going to flip open the book here and make sure I don't miss any of these steps here. The first thing you do is capture empty shield wall areas. So if any areas are empty, you will move the remaining army that you have in your space. So let's say that this area is completely empty. I would move the rest of my army into there. So that's something that you also want to pay attention to when you're doing your attacking. If Kim only had a couple of army members left there, and I had, the 6 that I have here, I may not want to use all of my ravens, because what I may want to do is use maybe half of them to try to get rid of whatever she had left. And then what I might want to do is try to use a move action maybe at the end to move a couple of my army figures off of there, either the Bondi or the herdman, into an adjacent area. Because once you move them into a shield wall area and capture it, the members of that force are basically out of the game for the rest of the game. They will just sit there and they're kind of protecting that area for you and keeping that place locked down for you. So if you actually have all 6 of your people here and move them into there, that's going to be a huge waste of resources that you're going to not be able to utilize for the rest of the game. So there's a lot of different strategy that you're going to want to think about. Also, something to think about is, let's say I went to attack her and Kim had all of her army, depleted. But before the end of her turn, she actually used a move from this area over into this area, which she can do. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as well as you're kind of going through the game. try to see maybe where your weaker areas are, and then start dispersing your armies into the different spots. Now, like I said before, when you do a move, you basically spend the ravens, and you can only move to one adjacent space. So, and once you do a move, it becomes your opponent's turn. You'll see that when we kind of go through, a little bit of gameplay here. So if I wanted to move some army members from like this area all the way down to here, I would need to spend some movement in this area to move them here. I would need to spend some ravens over here to move them here. And then I would need to spend some ravens over here to move them there. So that is how you would get them across the board. Let's say Kim's attacking me and this area then is depleted. Or let's say I've actually depleted all this army and moved this army into here, and I still had these people over here and I wanted to move them over. You can do a movement across an empty area of your shield wall. So if this army had moved up here for me and was basically holding that down, this is an area that I still control. I can move across that empty area to be able to still reinforce over here. Let's say I move up to here and Kim wants to maybe try to reinforce over to this area of the board. She can't do that because what I've basically done is, if I would have destroyed all her members here and moved up here, I basically cut off this segment of her army from her being able to help her. So she can't move anybody over there because she can't cross the area that I control. So that's a little bit of explanation about how kind of like the movement goes. During that end phase, after you actually do the capture the enemy shield wall, you return all ravens to your hand. You also return all the thralls to the area if any shield walls were captured. So let's say I do capture this area from Kim. She actually loses 1 thrall from play for the rest of the game, as well as 3 ravens get removed from her hand. That's about the rules in a nutshell. We've gone through kind of like the setup. We've gone through your actions being move or attacking. We've gone through how to defend with the ravens. We've gone through the end game turns. I think we're ready to maybe try to set this up and maybe play through a couple of rounds of the game so you can kind of get a feel for how the game is actually played. There's one other thing with the game that I didn't mention, and that are the cards that actually come with the game. It's for an advanced variant of the game. Each player has their own set of 10 cards. And if we look at some of the cards here, this card is the Solid Shields of Linden. You play immediately after rolling blocking dice. So this is what the cards are. This allows you to re-roll all failures once. At the beginning of the game, if you want to play with these, and Kim and I actually played with these during our first game, so I won't say it's too advanced of a game. It actually does, I think, round out the game rather nicely. I've played through a solo game where I was kind of trying to learn the game before, where I wasn't using the cards, but then when I taught it to Kim, we instantly played game 1 utilizing the cards. And I think from the game that I played, as far as, as opposed to when we played with them and not played with them, definitely play with the cards. I think it actually rounds out the game nicely. If you want, you can play one game as a learning game without the cards just to get through the game. But by your second game, you probably want to add these in because I think they do add quite a bit to the game. It actually just adds different actions that you can use, and it really tells you on each card when you can use them. Some, like this one, is played after rolling blocking dice. This one's played immediately before rolling attacking dice. This one you play as part of a movement action. So they all have a different kind of like ability to them. What you do with the 10 cards that you're given, you shuffle them up, you deal 5, set the other 5 aside, and that is pretty much how you're going to go ahead and utilize those cards. But let's go ahead and let's kind of get set up here with a 2-player game here. We rolled originally and we said that the Anglo-Saxons were going to go first. So we're going to start just by placing ravens out onto the board here. And since we're usually putting the ravens kind of like behind the characters, Kim and I, when we were playing, we were kind of just announcing how many we were putting down there, just as a little politeness, a board game etiquette there, I guess you could say. I'm going to go ahead and place 4 there. I'm going to dump all of Kim's tokens out and move the little cup over there. She's going to go ahead, and I'm going to try to remember how she was playing in some of the games we've played so far. Some places she was getting kind of aggressive. So we're going to go with 5 there. So I'm going to go ahead and throw 3 over here. And she's going to go ahead and do another 5 over here. Now in the areas where she puts 5, I'm thinking, okay, she's going for an all-out attack. The way I was kind of playing when we were playing, I was maybe throwing 2 there and just probably utilizing those as defensive ravens to just basically kind of just use to absorb probably some of the damage she's going to try to do. So she's going to go ahead and we're going to try to divide up and see what we have left. I think what she's going to do is she's going to throw... she's going to throw 3 over here. And then I'm going to see what I have over here. We got 3, 3. The first round, I try to maybe spread my ravens out a little more evenly. Kim was kind of going a little heavier on a couple of spots to try to maybe poke some holes into my shield wall there. I have 3 out. She has 3 out, so I need to place 1 more. We're going to go ahead and place another 2 over here where she has 5. She's going to throw, let's throw a 3 down over here. I'm going to throw a 3 down over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, I'm going to put a 4 down over there. She has 2 left, so she's going to put a 2 here. I'm going to put a 5 down here. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then she's going to put a 2 down here. So for this game, I'm playing without the cards just to give a solo run through, just because it's going to be confusing enough just to make sure that I do everything right without adding cards into the mix. But like I said, the cards actually do round out the game nicely. Like I said, you could probably add them in your first game. If you do want to run through a game first without them, feel free. Like I said, it says they're an advanced rule, part of the rules, but they aren't really that difficult to figure out. I think Kim and I really enjoyed when we played with them. So it is going to be the Anglo-Saxons' turn. They are going to go ahead and, since Kim only has a couple of ravens over here, they're going to go ahead and they're just going to attack with all 5. 2, 3, 4. Actually, there's 4 over here. So I'm going to roll 4 dice. And I rolled a 2, 3, 3, and a 5. So I basically have 1 hit. So since I have 4 over there, I'm going to go ahead and use 1 thrall. And just re-roll 1 die and see if I can get 1 more hit. Nope, I rolled a 2. So I basically did 1 point of damage. So Kim can actually absorb that right now and maybe get rid of a Bondi. Or she can use a defensive move. I think what she's going to do is she's probably just going to remove the 1 Bondi. And then she can always just do an attack right back with the 2 that she has. But I think what she wants to do first is come after some of these areas where she really placed down the higher numbers that she has here. So we're going to go ahead and she's going to attack in this column right here. And what we've been doing is when we're doing an attack, we usually say how many we're going to be rolling. And I tend to maybe just scoot them back to like the edge of the board. You might not be able to see them. Oh yeah, you can see them with the box. Scoot them back just so we remember what column we're attacking in. And then I usually just have a tendency to maybe just move them off the board once they're kind of done. That's the way we've been playing. I don't really think they kind of said that in the rules, but I think it just makes it clean. So this way you kind of know where you're attacking, because if you ever get interrupted when you're playing the game, it can get kind of confusing when you come back, like, where were we? So that's kind of what we were doing. So right now, Kim's going to go ahead and attack. And I think we said we had 5 here. 2, 3, 4, 5. So she's going to roll 5 dice. And she actually got a pretty decent roll there. She got 3 hits. She has 2 more. She's going to basically spend a thrall, because why not? She's going to try to maybe get more than 2 hits, or 3 hits. And she rolled a 6. So right there, Kim got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She got 5 hits off of those 5 ravens that she just spent. I, of course, only have 2 ravens here. I'm going to spend those 2 ravens and just try to block some of that 5. I rolled a 1 and a 3. One thing I did not mention when I was kind of like explaining setup and going through some of the rules, thralls can only be used during attacks. So they can only be used to reroll attack dice. They can't be used to reroll defense dice, or block dice is what they say in the rules. So right now, I am taking 5 right to my gut here. So I'm going to have to get rid of 2 herdmen, which are 4, and then a Bondi. So Kim has definitely punched a big hole into my little army over here with those 5. I'm going to go ahead and take those 5 just so they're done and just throw them back in the cup so we don't get confused there. It's going to go back to the Anglo-Saxon turn, and the Anglos are going to, I think what they're going to do is we're going to go 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do a move. So I'm going to remove 1 raven, set it back here, and I'm going to move a herdman back over here just to maybe bolster that area up a little bit. So that's going to be my action. I did a move that action. So Kim's going to come back with an attack. I think after that last attack where she did the 5, I think she's going to go right over here next to her area where she did another 5, and she's going to basically follow it up with another big punch there and see what she could do. She's rolling pretty good, much better than I am. She got 2 6s, so that's 4. She's going to use a thrall because she wants to try to reroll one of these 2 to see if she can get something else. It's another 2, but 4 is still pretty good. So with the 4 damage that she just rolled, I'm going to have to spend my 2 ravens that are here and basically roll them. And I got a 1 and a 5, so that means 3 are going to have to come off the board for me. So I'm going to remove a herdman and a Bondi from that area and place them over here. So she did a little bit of damage in that one, not as much as the other one. And then she is done with those 5. I'm just going to set those over there into the cup. It is now my turn. Where do I want to go? I think what we're going to do is, I have 3 over here. I'm going to attack with these 3. That die was cocked, and wow, I rolled a 1, 2, and a 3. Those 3 basically got me nothing. I think I'm going to save my thrall for the next fight that I do. But right now, Kim is going to, I don't think she's really going to do any movement, but I think what she's going to do is she's going to spend the 2 that she has over here and attack this area. I will give her that cock die as 2 6s. Wow, so that's 4. So that's going to be 2 more herdmen removed from that area. She is kind of putting a little dent into my army. So these are all moved. I need to kind of do some damage here. I think what we're going to do is 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're going to go all out and attack 4 over to that area in the first column. Wow, there we go. There's a good roll. So I rolled 2 6s, a 5. I'm going to set those off to the side. I'm going to use a thrall to actually re-roll the 1 that I rolled. And it's a 4. So there is 2, 4, 6 that I am going to be trying to attack her with. Luckily, she does have 3 there. So she's going to roll 3 to block with. And wow, I was doing 6, 2, 4, 5. She just blocked 5. So she only has to lose a Bondi. That is the way to block with ravens. That was a darn good roll, and I wish I could get those types of rolls when we play these games. So she really stopped that defense there. But as you can see, it cost her all of the characters that she has there. And there is our Snoopy Christmas clock going off at the top of the hour here. All right. So who is going to attack next? I think Kim has a couple attacks. And as you can see, going back and forth, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but you might have noticed when I went to do the movement, I actually did a move and left some ravens there. What I was mentioning is when I did my movement, I actually took 1 raven from this area before, but then left the other ones there. So unlike when you're placing the ravens during the, the setup round, where you can't go back to an area. When you're actually using the ravens for actions, you can go back to an area as many times as you want. So I could do a move, I could do a move again, I could do a move again. So I can do multiple moves. I can maybe do a move and then maybe do an attack with only a couple of ravens and then leave a raven there to maybe do a block with. So there's multiple ways you can divide up the ravens you're placing in an area. So that's something to keep in mind. So I think it was Kim's attack, and as you can see, Kim is probably going to, she actually has two areas left where I only have one. It's because the way you sometimes divide up your ravens during your turn. If somebody does utilize all their ravens before the opponent then can just finish out and, you know, complete all of their stuff with all of their ravens till the end of the round. If you actually have ravens in an area where your opponent defeats all of your army that is in that area, those ravens, if you can't get any people moved back into that area, those ravens will then not be able to be used. They will just go back into your hand at the beginning or at the end of the turn. So I think what Kim's going to do is she has a couple ravens over here. She's just going to do an attack of 2. She rolled a 5 and a 3. She has 1 thrall left, so let's re-roll that 3 and actually see if she can hit another one. She rolled a 4, so that is going to be 2. So I'm going to lose 2 Bondi from there. And that's her 2. I am going to do an attack. I have 4 here. I'm going to do an attack with 3 and roll 3 dice. I got 1 hit. I have 1 thrall left, so I'm going to re-roll one of the dice and see if I can get something else besides a 4. I only got a 2, 1 hit. Kim does have 3 ravens here. I think she's going to save them and do an all-out attack. So she's just going to go ahead and just remove a Bondi with the 1 damage. I will remove those. So Kim's last turn, she's basically going to do an all-out attack with 3. The last 3 ravens she has left on her side. Wow. And right there we have 4. So with her 3 ravens she has left, she just did 4 damage. That is the reason why I left 1 raven here, just so I could roll a block die. I did block 1, so I am only actually going to lose 3 points of army, a Bondi, and a herdman. That is going to be the end of the turn. As you can see, there is no area where we can actually move into an opponent's shield wall. We are going to get our thralls back. So all 3 thralls come back to both players because none of us lost an area. You will collect all of your ravens back in front of you. So all the ones that I kind of left stranded on the board. The first player will then basically start again. First player does not change during the rounds. The first player who rolled at the beginning of the game is the first player through the whole game. I'm going to take you through one more round of gameplay. We'll see what happens, and then we'll give you some final thoughts on the game. So let's actually start going through here and seeing what I want to do. Kim has punched a hole in a couple of my parts of my army here, so I'm going to need to put some extra pieces in a couple of the areas to try to give myself a little bit of defense. I think she's going to go with the same way she did before, probably a similar setup. I think she's going to go ahead and do 5 here. I'm going to go ahead and put 4 here. I think she just about damaged pretty much all of my different columns that I have here. Wow. She actually played pretty good that turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's going to do another 5. I think she's going to do that 5 probably over here this time. I'm going to go ahead, after I see that 5, I'm going to plop 3 down here, probably just to be used as defense. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's got 4 more areas to fill up. So she's going to go ahead and put 3 here. I am going to do 3 there. She's going to go ahead and do 3 down here. I'm going to put 3 over here. She's got 2 here. I've got 2 there, and then she's got 2 here. So it's going to be the Anglo-Saxons' turn to fight. So I will be the first one to attack here. I think what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to use the 5 I put down. I'm going to go 4, and I'm going to roll 4 for attack. There we go. There's finally a decent roll. So I got a decent roll there, but I'm going to use a thrall right off the bat just to see if I can. Nope, I rolled a 2. So 3. So Kim's actually just going to use 1 raven to block that 3. She rolled a 1, so she's going to have to do 3 damage. So it's going to be a Bondi, and a Herdman is going to be removed from her. I will move those right there, so I still have 1 more to block over there from her. She's going to come over here and try to do an attack with her 5. And she's going to be aggressive still and just go all out attack with a 5. And that was not a good roll for her. She got 1 hit that turn. There are her dice. So she's definitely going to throw a thrall off the board and re-roll 1 of those to maybe get a 6. There you go. There's 3. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use 2 of my ravens to do a block. I'm going to block 1, so that means I need to remove 2. So I'm going to remove a Herdman, and she's used up all of her tokens on that area. Back to me. I'm going to go the area that she just attacked from. I'm going to go ahead and just try to hit her with the 1 raven I have left. Yeah. Oh, that was a cock to die there. There we go, a 6. So she's going to remove a Herdman. Back to Kim's turn. I think she's going to attack with her other 5 that's over here. She's going to try to get all her big attacks done first. So there she has 3 that she did there. She's going to use another thrall to do 1 reroll. She got a 3. So she had a 4, 4, 5. That is going to be 3 coming to me. Again, I'm going to use 2 of my ravens to try to do a block. I blocked 1, so I will lose a Herdman from there. And that was her 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. I should have counted those before I actually said it was a 5, but I could have swore I put a 5 there, so I was right. So as you can see, when you're doing blocks, that actually doesn't count for your offensive action. You know, blocks is just, you know, you can do defense just to do defense. So you're always, you know, once your opponent does an offensive action, it then switches back to you and you do an offensive action, even if you did a block. I just wanted to state that because I think they do actually mention that in the rules. So it's coming back to me. I think over here, we're going to try to just do an all-out attack with 4. There we go. There's a decent roll. We got 2 6s. I'm going to go ahead and use my last 2 thralls here to re-roll these 3s. And I got 1 more. That was a 4. And I got a 2, 2 6s. So that's 2, 4, 5. That is 5 damage coming her way. But she does have a couple of ravens there. So she is going to go ahead and use her 2 ravens to do a block. Wow. So I had rolled the 2 6s and the 4, which is 5. She just blocked with 3, so she's only going to lose 2. So she will just lose a Herdman there. That is the way you do a block. Those will come off the board. She's going to go over here, and let's say she's going to attack with all 3 of these. She got 1 hit there. I'm going to go ahead and actually just remove that Bondi. because then what I'm going to do on my turn is I'm going to attack her right back with 3. And I just hit her for 3. So she actually has to remove 2 now. Or 3 of those 2 figures. So that area is looking a little thin now over there for her. On her turn, she is going to come over here, and let's have her attack with 2 over here. So I'm going to attack with these 2. She's going to hit me for 1. I'll go ahead and remove the Bondi, because then, like I was doing before, oh, come back here, Raven, don't fly away. I'm going to do 1 attack back at her and actually roll a 5 and get rid of 1 of her Bondi. So we'll call that almost just about an even trade. So it's going to be her turn now. She has, that was used because they're on the bottom of the board. See, that's why I like moving them towards the bottom of the board, because sometimes I don't always move them off the board, but I know that they were used since they were down there. She has, it looks like 2 ravens left over there. She's going to go ahead and just attack with both. She has 1 thrall left. So the 1, she is just going to go ahead and just re-roll. And she just hit me for 3. So I'm going to go ahead and spend my 2 ravens that are here to block, try to block. I blocked 2, so I'm going to lose 1. I'm going to lose a Bondi. And those 2 will just set off on the board. And then it will come back to me. I have 1 left. I'm going to go ahead and just do an attack straight across. That one's cocked, so I will actually re-roll it. It's a 4. She loses a Bondi, and that will be the end of the round. So that was basically 2 quick rounds of play. As you can see, armies start depleting. The board, which was filled at the beginning of the game, is now looking a little, less dense with characters. And you're just going to do this and going back and forth. You're going to, do the end of turn stuff where you collect all your ravens. You're going to move your thralls back into place. You're going to, replace. You look to see if anybody has, move the shield wall stuff. So let's say on that turn I had actually destroyed this area for Kim. I would then do that to take that over, and then these 3 characters, like I was saying when I was going through the teach of the game, those 3 characters are basically just stuck there now. They can't be used for the rest of the game. I can't attack sideways. Kim can't attack me to try to take it back over. I control this area. That's the way this works. The thing that will also happen is at that point in time is she would lose a thrall, so she would only get 2 thralls back, and she would actually have to set 3 ravens aside, which we'll just set right there, and then she would be down from the 20 actions to 17. So once you start taking over some of your opponent's territories, it really does become very strategic in that you really have to start balancing the actions you have left against, what's left on the board and what you want to do. So sometimes, maybe you want to just give up a territory, but, giving up a territory can be, quite detrimental in playing this game. Because once it, I don't want to say it's first blood, but once somebody does lose a territory, losing those 3 actions, does really have an effect, on, the rest of your gameplay. You do have less areas to try to attack with and defend, so in that way it's, I don't want to say it's balanced, but, that's how you're going to work through that. So other than that, that is pretty much how you play the game. You're going to continue until, you move 3 of your army members into your opponent's shield wall area over there. And once you have 3 areas, the game's over and you are declared the victor. Like I said, from the several of the games that Kim and I have played, I would say you could probably finish this game in a good 45 to 60 minutes once you understand the rules. It will play very quickly. Adding the cards in definitely does round out the game, I think, nicely. I think without the cards, it's definitely, I think it's a great intro war game that you could probably teach somebody who maybe doesn't play a lot of war games. When Kim and I first started dating, like 20 years ago, Risk was something we played. And this is probably a game we definitely would have probably played back then because it's definitely a little bit faster. It's definitely a little bit easier, but there is still a ton of strategy here. in figuring out when to attack, how much to attack with, when to block, how much to block with, moving your army members from, the different areas, can definitely make a difference. So let's back up the game a little bit here. Let's say Kim actually had destroyed all of my characters that were in this area. And let's say I had some ravens left here. I can move somebody over here to try to just keep control of that area during my turn. One of the other cards that we ran into when we were playing earlier is at the end of the turn phase, I was able to bring, if I lost 2 Bondi during that turn, I was able to bring 2 Bondi back. So I would, maybe do a move and then throw 2 Bondi down, and then all of that 4 points of, army members there, whereas she had destroyed it. But before she was able to move in during that end turn phase, I repopulated it some to give me a little bit of boost and keep that, area under my control. So there's definitely a lot of strategy in the game for being, just a little board with just, 6 different columns where you're doing your straight line of attack from. But that's Battle Ravens for you. Definitely check it out. It's on Kickstarter. I believe it has about 10 days left as of recording. I don't know if I will get this recording up immediately, but it has 10 days left as of this recording. Definitely try to help them reach their goal. It's a fun, cool little game. So thanks everybody for joining me. Again, this is Joe from What I'm Playing Now. As always, go play some games and let me know what you're playing now. But until later, everybody, you have a great time gaming, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.